Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first installment of the Fireside Chat. A lot of us would be together tonight at Emmanuel or in your respective churches around the country or maybe around the world, depending on where you're tuning in from. But this is just an effort to be together, to share some time, and to listen to nature. This is a beautiful spot right here. So I have my lovely candles right here. I've got like 6 candles next to me. I really tried to light a bonfire, but the Ethernet cable didn't stretch all the way back to the backyard. So we're doing it kind of closer to the house, so you can see our house just right next to here. And so I've got some candles and a beverage. So feel free to grab your favorite beverage and perhaps some food. And this is just a time of community. So if you have any sort of questions that you'd like to offer, put them in the comment section because I can see anything that people post and I'll do my best to answer. This could be like an Ask Me Anything, like they have on Reddit. So put your comments or questions in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. And so it's good to be here with you all. So this has been an interesting time. Not used to working from home. Like to go into the office and have my office time. Check mail. You kind of get into a routine of daily life, and it's like everything has been upended. So, one of the topics my colleagues and I have been talking about is just trying to set up a routine, a routine in this new normal, I guess you could call it, something that is not normal in the least, but we're trying to forge ahead and come up with a way to live and be happy and to find joy. So one thing that I'm curious about, and feel free to post in the comments, is where have you found joy in these last couple of weeks? And where is God bringing you joy? And that could be in food, it could be in family. One of the greatest things I like to do, one of my very favorite things, is to have bonfires and to sit in our backyard back here. So, but tonight these candles will have to suffice. So those who are just joining, welcome. This is the first installment, I don't know, maybe of many. Maybe we'll do this every week of a fireside chat. I'll try to get an Ethernet cable all the way back so we can actually have a bonfire. So I don't know about you, but one of my favorite TV shows is Parks and Rec, and one of my favorite characters is Ron Swanson. And the character Ron Swanson is played by Nick Offerman. He's the actor. And for like 3 winters in a row, he had this like hour-long video of him sipping on his favorite beverage, Lagavulin 18-year-old or 16-year-old Scotch by a fire. And so this is kind of the inspiration from that. But if you look back in time, Queen Elizabeth's father, the King of England, I can't think of his name, but he was the King of England during World War II. He would have his radio chat hours over the radio waves, and then FDR would have his fireside chats on radio, and it was oftentimes during difficult moments when people would need to stay connected, more than ever. And so with the gift of internet and computers, this is a good way to stay connected. So normally at this time we would be all gathered at Emmanuel and we would be sharing a meal. Last week was the Scout dinner, fish dinner, where we'd have fried fish, a lot of different potluck items, hot dishes, desserts. I can't remember what this week's would have been, but anyway, post what you're having for dinner tonight. That's something I'm curious about. And in general, what have you been doing for food? What have you been eating? Have you been trying to stay healthy? Have you been kind of going on the binge route or the junk food route? We've mostly stayed healthy. We did stock up a little bit on some non-perishable items before everything happened. Oops, I see one of my candles went out. Let me know if any of my candles blow out, by the way. I got this handy-dandy little electric, I don't know, it's like plasma or something, an electric fire starter. I got David, is that bird attacking? No, I don't think so, but we do have a number of birds' nests in these trees above us. We got some maple trees. This is also a maple. So anyway, got some big trees in the backyard, and we actually need to call the tree trimming company that we used. There used to be a big tree right back here that was like 50 feet tall, and it was dying. And we thought maybe it would live through the summer, maybe into the fall when we bought our house. We bought our house last June, but we ended up having to call a contractor and cut it down. And I had to cobble together a way to rent a wood splitter. And I brought that back here and split a bunch of wood last fall. So at any rate, we need to call the tree trimmers again and just kind of reevaluate the health of our trees to trim some branches down. But one of the greatest gifts of having big trees is you get a lot of birds, as you can hear, and we have like a record amount of squirrels. So, you know, they climb on our fences, they bury acorns in the yard, they build nests, they do all sorts of things. So I'm getting some texts here. So anyway, I'm glad that you're all able to join. This is just kind of an informal time. What are we drinking tonight? Okay, this is Corey. Hey guys, this is a Centennial IPA by Founders Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. One of my favorite breweries. Oh, my candle went out again. Two of them. Again, we'll get the bonfire going next week, hopefully. So yeah, we got Centennial IPA. Little, you might not know, but I like to home brew. So I have a brew in the basement. I've actually got a few different kinds. One of them is a cider, a dry cider, that I have deemed, what did I call it? Corona dry cider. And then I have an IPA, which is modeled after, oh, they're all just blowing out. But you can kind of get the effect of having candles. One of them is modeled after Two-Hearted Ale, which is by Bell's from Kalamazoo. And I've decided to call it Social Distancing QIPA, and the Q stands for Quarantine IPA. And then I've also got Cabernet Sauvignon down in the basement, and that's going to be called Ain't Going Nowhere Cab Sav. So anyway, but Centennial is what I got tonight. So yeah, feel free to post what you're having for dinner tonight, how you're spending the evening, how you're passing the time. Normally we'd be at church right now, enjoying our time together, and it's really kind of strange to not be there. So I just wanted to share some time together. So hopefully the birds won't be too loud. The dogs, we do have some loud neighborhood dogs in the neighborhood that like to make noise, but thankfully they're pretty calm tonight. So I decided to point the camera this way. You can see my face looking into the sun. Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, leftover spaghetti casserole. Nice, Bob. This is good. Good. Awesome. Yeah, that's right, David. I'm really outside. Yeah, we're outside. Thankfully it's a beautiful night. And I was just, thought, why not hang out outside? It's going to be a nice night. And so I'm grateful for people that tune in and, to have some community time. So, yeah, I was just talking about food. What are you having for dinner tonight? Where do you like to buy food? Did you stock up? Did you panic buy anything? What did you panic buy, if you don't mind sharing with the group? I bought an extraordinary amount of canned beans just to make some chili for the next few weeks, but not. I think I've really tried to be intentional and to say that everything I've done is not in panic, but is that entirely true? To keep God's presence in my life, to remember that God will see me through. But as the scouts say, be prepared. So it's good to think ahead and to be prepared. So yeah, it's a beautiful night. One of the topics was food. So feel free to chat. Put what you're having for dinner in the comments section. I'm just going to look up here what else I wanted to talk with you about. How have you guys been keeping busy the last few weeks? Have you been able to work? Did the state deem your work as essential or non-essential? I do believe houses of faith have been deemed essential, although it wasn't totally spelled out in the order. Have you been working from home? What have been some new discoveries that you've had while you've been home? Have you had to share a house with people while you've been at home? I came across an article the other day about how to survive being in the house together as a family or as a couple where you haven't been before. I think that's going to be something that will come up in future premarital counseling sessions. How did you survive the coronavirus pandemic? Did you drive each other nuts? You can think of a lot of different things. It looks like we got Dick Timmons joining us. Good. Hey, guys. Oh, we got some stew going. Excellent. Chicken tikka. Oh, man. Cubic Stats are eating good tonight. We got some chili cooking. So I think it's like a 3-bean chili with ground turkey and onions. So thankfully, David was able to bring together all the video. So make sure after our fireside chat, done with my rapidly extinguishing candles right here, make sure to tune into Holden Evening Prayer after this. So the goal was to bring us together and to kind of simulate what it would be like if we were at Emmanuel. Not quite, but you get the idea. The intention is there. I'm just going to kind of leave these be. I'm going to light that one. Hopefully it doesn't go out. So if you have any questions for me tonight, feel free to put those in the chat section next to the video, the live chat. I think I'm pointing to it. If you have any questions for me, this is kind of like an ask anything time. And if you think of a way that we can share this with our community, to get more people on and chatting in the live feature, just let me know, and maybe we can put that in the bulletin for this week. So good. All right. Oh, other direction. Okay, so that's the live chat. This is a new thing, so I got to get it down. When I'm sitting to the left of the camera, I got to point this way. All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Wow. So real. Yeah. Yes. This is real. This is real life. And so anyway, before I got off on a tangent, I was asking everybody how they were keeping busy. What are some hobbies? So before all this went down, I was fortunate enough to have all the ingredients to put together a few different brews. So I have an IPA, I have a dry cider, if you like ciders, and I have a dry red wine, Cab Sav, fermenting down in my basement right now. That all should be ready in a couple of weeks. The wine won't really be ready for about another year. Wine takes a long time. You got to put it in the bottles. They call it bottle conditioning, so it takes about a year for it to totally condition and to be drinkable and to taste like wine. Right now, it would kind of taste like grape juice with a little bit of alcohol in it. It wouldn't really taste like a sophisticated wine, So that'll take about a year. Other hobbies. Kelly and I really like to paint. So we got our paints out the other day. When I was in seminary, one of my classes was an art project that I had to do. And so foolishly, I decided that I would take on this project of painting with oils. And I was someone who had never painted before, but I really liked watching PBS, the Bob Ross videos. And so I thought, in the spirit of Bob Ross, I would try to take his inspiration. But ended up doing okay. The biggest thing with oil paints is you get them on your hands, and it's really hard to wash out of the brushes. And so we got this type of soap called like pink soap or something. You can find it on Amazon. But it was just a pain. So we started to paint with watercolors. Much easier. Highly recommend it. It's a very easy way to get into painting. So watercolors. The other kind is like kind of like a latex paint. I don't know, Cal. What's the paint that's like quick drying? It's like normal paint. Kelly's right behind the camera, by the way. She's been taking pictures of me the whole time. So did you see that? I had to touch my face, but I used my forearm. So if you have to like itch your face, use this part of your arm, use your elbow. So do something like that. So cheers, everybody. We're just having a beverage together. After this, you're invited to have a meal and tune into the Holden Evening Prayer. This is really fun. I hope that you're all enjoying this time. Let's see here. So, any other questions? Do you take any classes for painting? No, I do not. There's all sorts of YouTube resources for painting. It's like anything. If you need to fix your car, if you need to clean, do something with your plumbing in your house, learn how to paint, you can find YouTube classes on that are accessible, so that's always cool to have. Let's see. Bob Ross is the man. I agree, Corey. Yes. Happy accidents. I like to think that, well, we're not accidents, but each of us are happy, and we're kind of like happily imperfect. You know what I mean? Like, we're unique creations of God, but we're all beautiful, and we're not perfect. We're broken in sin, but and we all take a little improvisation. We're all in need of looking to the future and improving. And I like his approach to fixing problems too. He would always make a little problem, and then he would fix it. And that's kind of an approach that I like to have with life. Is no matter what happens, there's always going to be a solution. There's always a way forward. So no need to stress out. It's all beautiful. So I'm going to take a little sip here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. They've also been encouraging everybody to go outside, as you can see. So it doesn't matter if you have a yard, if you just want to go on a walk around the block. Kelly just went to Gallup Park today, and she said there were like record numbers of people not social distancing, not following the guidelines. But anyway, one of the great gifts that my in-laws gave us after we got married were paddle boards, and they're inflatable, and so you stand on them and you have like a big paddle. So once it gets a little bit nicer, I think we'll take the paddle boards over to Gallup Park. They have a little boat launch there. The water is pretty slow moving, so you can get in, and there's a lot of kayakers around there too. So at any rate, if you go to Gallup Park in the summer and it's a nice day, chances are you might see us there. So that would be a lot of fun. Maybe sometime later in the summer we can have a church get together down there. I think that could be kind of fun on the river. It's a really good setting there. You can have a fire, you can have a grill out. It's just a beautiful setting. So yes, Kelly is camera operator. That's right. You're a throw. Yes, awesome. Yeah, I know beer brewing. I'm looking at Dick's comment. Beer brewing goes back, generations, and that's what a lot of the pioneers and farmers had to do if they wanted to have some enjoyable beverages, after a hard day's work. So, yeah, it's been kind of fun. I got into it in seminary. I had a few buddies that did it, and actually back in college. So that was like 2011. The first beer we ever made was a Dunkelweizen, which is like a dark German beer, but we didn't really make it that well. It was like we screwed it up quite a bit. But yeah, it made a lot sense, and they're all pretty tasty. So, any rate, yes, Gallup Park worship, very good. So, one thing I've been curious about is how are people staying active, staying fit. One of my biggest worries is not really the coronavirus. It's being socially isolated and and just kind of being bored, like letting that social isolation sink in a little bit. And so one way that we can kind of push back on anxiety and social isolation is to come online together and be together. So it's this is a good way to do it. So let me just see if we have any other comments here. Any other questions? Good. Yeah. So yeah, Eric Mays. The Mazes live right over here, by the way. Shout out to you guys. Yeah. So we got Mazes over here and the Locust on the other side. We live in Normal Park on Oakwood Street, and we can see the water tower right out of our front window most mornings. And we love living in Ypsilanti. It's a good spot, especially now. I feel like people are more active than ever, So I've seen more people walk by our front room than I have, since last fall. It's like everybody's coming out of their shells. So it's a really good time. Yeah. One thing that I have been thinking about is worshiping remotely. I think as worship leaders, we're not used to speaking into a camera. That's been really weird for me, and I know for not to speak for Monica, but I think it's been different for her and for David too. So I'd be curious just to hear how it's been from your perspective, worshiping from home. What's it been like to worship together as a community? Has it been interesting, strange? Have you liked it? One of my biggest worries is that everyone is going to prefer to worship on YouTube and not want to come back to church. I know that wouldn't happen, but that's something I've been thinking of. But it has been really cool because my family in South Dakota, my family in Arizona, not my family, my friends. I've got friends in lots of different places around the country. They've all been able to tune in and watch worship, and like, how cool is that to reach everybody around the country and to be worshiping together? That's been pretty cool. I don't think some of my family had never seen me preach before. Some of my cousins and uncles, and so I think this is kind of like a new phase in our relationship as a family. Is like, oh, I never saw Alex in his professional environment. Kind of a cool thing. So I'm glad that we're able to be together. So if you're just tuning in right now, this idea was meant to kind of emulate FDR's radio fireside chats, but just kind of like a YouTube live moment together. And the goal was to have it be further back in our backyard, but the internet didn't stretch out far enough to be back there. So I've cobbled together some candles here. It's a lovely display. It's kind of like a shrine to nature. So, but they keep blowing out. That's kind of like the bummer. If you have any other questions, keep posting them or reflections. And then this thing just went out. So we're gonna let it go. If you have any want to tell the group what you did today or what you're having for dinner, that would be great. Kelly and I are just sitting back here passing the time. She's behind the camera, by the way. But yeah, we're just chilling. We got chili in the slow cooker. We put it in there. Excited to eat that a little bit later. So after we end our chat for this evening, uh, be sure to tune in to Holden Evening Prayer. That was a new adventure for us that we pre-recorded it. We're using the music from last week, and this week I recorded the readings and a sermon in the house. So that'll be available on YouTube. So be sure to tune into that. So yeah, and then it's an interesting time of life. It's an interesting chapter that we're in as a society. Um, and almost all my conversations this past week or two, we've been talking about that this is really unprecedented. Something like this, a pandemic, even a national disaster. It seems a little bit opaque. It seems like, what's all the worry about? They keep saying that this is what a successful shelter in place is going to look like, because everybody's just going to be bored, on YouTube and wonder what this has all been about. But, the goal is to try to keep everybody safe and to keep the spread of the disease to a minimum. So in the meantime, while we can't be together as a community, we'll join together on YouTube. So right on. Well, it's really fun to be with y'all. I see we've had a little crowd join us tonight. So we'll think of some ways that we can schedule this out and announce it for next week to be together on this this evening. So yeah, I've just been curious how you all have been living, how you're passing the time, how you're keeping busy. Have you been able to do things that are fun, or have you just been like so bored the last few days? I think what we're going to learn from this is that probably like 95% of our jobs will be able to be done remotely. I know, like Corey, you got to fly a plane, so you can't do that remotely. But a lot of my sermon work, a lot of my desk work from week to week is done remotely. I do it in the office, but a lot of it could be done, in other places. So in that regard, it hasn't impacted my work life as much. And I guess I would consider this work, so it's kind of a neat thing. For the service on Sunday, just want to talk a little bit about worship coming up. We have a pre-recorded service. Any good book recommendations? Yeah. Well, I think Kelly's got some, but I don't know if she wants to. No.
I'll think of some.
All right, she'll think of some. I'm actually, I'll get back to what I was saying, but I started reading Ernest Hemingway's, what's it called? Truth. I'll think of it. Anyway, it's about his adventures in East Africa. True at First Light, I think is what it's called. Anyway, so Sunday, if you're able to look up the readings for Sunday, the fifth Sunday in Lent for year A, the readings are just remarkably fitting for this moment, not only for the church, but for our whole world. So the first one is the Valley of the Dry Bones from Ezekiel. It's all about, the people having despair. This prophet Ezekiel, comes to the valley and he sees all these dry bones and is just in total despair, and all he sees is death and destruction. I mean, it reminds us of what we're doing now, where we're at now. It seems like all we hear about in the news is infection rates and death counts, and it's like, where is the good news? But God, in that reading from Ezekiel, says, I will put flesh on your bones. I will deliver you. The psalm is really good. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But the reading for the gospel is from John, and it's about raising Lazarus from the dead. And Jesus is sad. Jesus cries. Jesus is deeply disturbed by the reality of death. And, this is God telling us that that God does not wish this upon us. God isn't punishing anyone. God also despairs at death. God mourns. But even in our deepest despair, when our friends die, when our family members die, Lazarus was one of Jesus' friends. Um, Still, God is there at work, bringing about new life, bringing about hope and new possibilities. So it's going to be an inspiring Sunday worship. The readings are extremely fitting for this time and circumstance that we're going through, and this kind of hard moment. But as you'll hear in Holden Evening Prayer tonight, I talk about how God's people have always gone through hard times. This isn't something new, which is the unfortunate part. But there have been wars and famines, and our society, for a lot of people, we have it pretty good. People are relatively well off. We have uh, a lot of people have good access to food and resources. There are a lot that don't, unfortunately. But we have to love and serve and do what we're called to do. But I just think about South Africa so much, in Tanzania and other places that have seen wars, that have been ravaged by an innumerable amount of diseases. If you go to Tanzania, they've known people that have died from malaria. A lot of them know or have contracted HIV/AIDS, and know people who've died from that. Uh, so, diseases and wars and hard moments are not, unfortunately, anything new to us as a human race, as a people filled with the Holy Spirit. And I kind of think, we have had it relatively good. We haven't really had to worry about diseases or wars in this country, which is fantastic. But this is kind of a wake-up call for us, to know that, to recognize the good times when they are here, to mourn times of loss and grief and sickness when they do come. And this is a time to really contemplate what it means to live out our faith in a difficult moment, and actually living through it. I think for my generation, um, we've had. I was born in the late '80s, so I lived through the fall of the Soviet Union. Um, the apartheid regime ended in the '90s. We had the Columbine shooting. We had 9/11. SARS was a big scare, actually. H1N1 back in 2009. Everybody was scared about that, but it seemed like it disappeared overnight. Anyway, in my life, I've kind of lived through some times, and then I think about my dad's generation. He was 18 in 1968. He was about to get drafted to Vietnam, but broke his collarbone when he was playing football, so ended up not getting drafted. But I just think of all those people that lived through Vietnam, through lots of different times of war and grief and difficulty. So anyway, the point being is we'll get through it. It seems like we're stuck in time right now. These days might seem long, the weeks might seem long, but God is still seeing us through. God is giving us the power of wisdom and understanding, to use our best judgment, and to give, out of our despair, out of our grief, for how our lives have changed. We're able to have more empathy and compassion than ever before, and I think this is a defining moment for the church. It's a defining moment for the body of Christ globally. The Pope actually invited. Let me pull this up here. The Pope invited everybody to join in the Lord's Prayer. Let me just look this up. So Pope Francis recited the Lord's Prayer today, actually. I think it was at 12 o'clock. Yeah, it was at noon today. So maybe tomorrow, if you didn't say the Lord's Prayer today at noon, maybe tomorrow you can say it. But this is an effort to bring people of faith together from around the world, um, to have more of a sense of unity. I think this also, sorry, I was going to touch my face there. I'm going to use good practices. So there we go. I think if anything, this experience is going to realize all of the ambiguous borders and distinctions that we draw between us, especially as Christians. And my hope in my lifetime is that I would be able to give communion and take communion at a Catholic parish, and the same would go for a Catholic priest in the Lutheran Church. I think that would be my life's goal, to see that happen. I don't know if it will, but my prayer is that it will. As we come together to pray, to give hope to the world, to be people of God. That's right. Yeah, we're united. Yes. So I'm just looking through here. Okay, good. You guys are talking. Just want to say hi to everybody. It's so good to be with you tonight. Even though we can't be together at Emmanuel, this is our usual time set aside in our weeks that we come together. We kind of hit the pause button. We have a meal together, and then we go upstairs and we worship with Holden Evening Prayer. But we're making lemonade out of lemons, and we're still continuing to talk, to be together as a virtual community. One phrase that I've really drawn strength from is we are physically distant, right? We're not, what do they say? Physically, social distancing, that's the term. But a lot of pastors have been saying that is kind of a misnomer, because we're physically distant, but we don't have to be socially distant. We can still be chatting online. We can still be video conferencing. And I don't know about for you guys, but for me, it feels like we're right here together. We're not far away at all. So those who are joining, feel free to chat. Feel free in the window over there to chat. Put what you're having for dinner. Normally we'd be together for a meal. Kelly and I are having turkey chili tonight. And one of the secrets of our turkey chili is that I always try to put in a dark beer into the chili, like a stout or a porter. Gives it a little bit of a rich flavor. So this is just a beautiful space. So if you're able to, in the next days and weeks, make sure you go outside, breathe in the fresh air. They're encouraging people to go out, as long as you keep a 6 foot distance from the nearest person. But go on a walk, go on a run, ride your bike. The Metro Parks, the Huron and Clinton Metro Parks, have offered free admission, I believe, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for like the next month. So I might be wrong. If anybody can fact check me on that. But I saw something about that. So at any rate, research the free days for the parks. Go there, enjoy, go on a hike. Am I drinking kombucha? I am not drinking kombucha, Eric. I'm drinking a Centennial IPA from Founders Brewery in Grand Rapids. So cheers, everybody. And we're just enjoying our evening tonight. And just really try to stay mentally healthy. One of my biggest worries is people's mental health, people's social isolation. I don't know if any of you remember, but right before all this started, we were getting what were called Emmanuel dinner groups off the ground. And there's small groups of people and groups of like 10 to 15. And, it was just people going out to restaurants, going to people's houses. And then, COVID-19 hit, spread like wildfire. And, we had to cancel all of the groups, because now we have the shelter in place order. However, we started this program called Emmanuel Pen Pals. We'll be announcing it more in the weeks to come, but it's a program where we're matching people up one-to-one, people who might be homebound, who may be elderly, who don't have access to computers, so they can't live stream the services every Sunday. Hopefully they have people that can bring the service to them. But anyway, it's a way to keep people connected, to write letters, to ask people questions about how you're staying busy and what you're having, uh, how are you filling your days. If you want to be a part of that program, just feel free to shoot me an email or send me a text or a Facebook message or something. So yeah, it's just an effort to keep everybody connected. Kelly and I are trying to stay active. We're working with Hope Clinic more than ever. We were asked by one of their employees if we could be like one of their trusted volunteers, where we would get keys to the building and let volunteers in and stuff like that. Last night we were at the church. We were down at Emmanuel with the Hunger Coalition. Sorry, I'm going to touch my face again. There we go. Safe practices here, not touching with my hands. We were down at the church and we put together packed bags of lunches. They were ham sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And people came. We served probably 30 people came and grabbed the bags of food. So that was a good way to stay active. We had to employ some new physical distancing policies, one at a time up at the counter and that sort of stuff. But at any rate, we served about 30 people last night from Emmanuel's back parking lot. And next week, the Hunger Coalition meal will be at Hope Clinic. It starts at 5 o'clock. And I don't know exactly what it'll look like, but we'll probably be there. So if you want to help, if you feel like you're not at risk, we're going to be using safe practices. Hope Clinic is very mindful of how to keep everything sanitized. They take everybody's temperature before they come in. And so, yeah, they're good about making sure that people are not showing symptoms and that stuff, that sort of thing. So come and serve if you feel so inclined. I know a lot of people just feel stuck at home and helpless. And one of my colleagues was sharing with me that a lot of literature was not published about the 1918 Spanish flu because a lot of people kind of huddled together. A lot of people were kind of ashamed about how they acted, and as it affected a lot of people, especially kids. So at any rate, I think as a church, our goal is to keep the building open, to keep serving and loving, and to stay active. And this is such a cool thing. I think we'll keep doing this, these kind of online chats, these fireside chats. And one of our goals after the pandemic is to invest in some streaming equipment so we can keep streaming. My family can and friends around the country, around the world, can tune in. Again, it was so cool to have my cousins and aunts and uncles tune into the services for the last couple of weeks. So it's kind of a fun thing. So yeah, I think we'll keep that going. And this is really an innovative time, not only for Emmanuel, but I know for a lot of different churches. I know a lot of my colleagues are having to post more on social media. They're having to be more creative. They're having to think about how they're doing things on YouTube and Facebook and how to do live events like this one. And so I think this is a breath of fresh air for the church. It's kind of hard to say that, but I guess I'm an eternal optimist, so I always try to find the silver lining. So I think for not only the ELCA but Christians around the world, we're learning how to stay connected, even if we can't come together for worship on Sundays. We're learning how to stay connected on a random Wednesday night over YouTube Live, and for the church members to chat over here in the chat window. So I think it's kind of a neat thing. Sorry, I keep wanting to. There we go. Safe practices. So I think it really is a breath of fresh air for us, and just know that this is not only something that Emmanuel has been struggling with the pandemic. all the colleagues that I have that are in ministry are really having to think outside the box. One church that I worked at in Chicago, they had worship entirely over the Zoom meeting app, which is it's an application on online, and it's kind of a video conferencing feature. But all the members of the church chimed in, and they were all on worship together. So someone would play guitar, the pastor would give a sermon, someone would give a reading. So that was kind of neat to see. One thing that we're thinking of doing for this week is to have a link below the YouTube video to Zoom meeting. So after the service, everybody can join in and have a virtual coffee hour. So that would be after the service on Sunday at 11 o'clock. People can join in on Zoom meeting and have a virtual coffee hour. Something that we never thought was possible. Something that I'd never have to think about before. And I had a conference call with the bishop today, and all of the pastors in the whole synod. So there were like 100 people on the Zoom meeting. But he said one of the hardest things that he's had to do in his ministry, and that he never thought he'd have to do, was to tell pastors that their congregations couldn't come to church for Easter, and more than that, couldn't even come to church during the week. So these are unprecedented times, and it's something that every church in this whole country is having to deal with. And it's something that we're all in together, though, and I think can bring us together. This is a uniting moment for our country, for the world, for faith communities. I've also been in a group called Multi-Faith Response to COVID-19, and that's a Facebook group. It's got over 5,000 members, and it's a group of people. It's a group of rabbis. It's a group of people from all religions, imams, pastors, interfaith leaders, and we're just talking about how we can love our people through this time. So it's not only a Christian thing, but it's every religion is going through this. So yeah, good. Great. Thank you for sharing that, Karen. Yeah, Women's Bible Study will be on Zoom on Sunday nights. I'd like to give some intentional time before we wrap up. I know I've been going for about 48 minutes. I just want to give some intentional time for you. If you have any questions for me, to put in the live chat feature, which is over here. Put any questions that you're wondering. Anything about church, about Holy Week that you're curious about, anything about how to give online. So I'll just give a couple minutes. We'll pause. I'll take a little sip here, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. So feel free to comment your questions in the chat. So go for it. It's getting a little colder. All right, we got a question here. Good. So Eric Mays from, I think, Eric, you're on Sherman Street, I think. No, Sheridan. What's the street over there? Sherman?
No, that's Sherman.
Your mom's on Sherman. No, your mom's on Sheridan. Anyway, what does the pastor drinking kombucha during a fire? What does the pastor drinking? Oh, okay. So I think you're asking what I'm having to indulge on this evening. So this is it's called Centennial IPA. It's from Founders Brewing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Great, lovely brewery, and they make lots of good stuff. I was saying earlier that I have been homebrewing, so that's been a fun thing to do. I've got a few different batches in the basement. So while you think of questions to ask before we conclude this evening, I just want to fill you in on some kind of opaque, broad stroke plans that we're making for Palm Sunday and for Holy Week. The palm orders are still coming. They will still be delivered by a company called Eco Palms. And Kelly's giggling. Eric is calling to us. He's a neighbor. Sorry, I'm touching my face. Eco Palms will still be delivered. And what we're thinking of doing is Jennifer and I will come to the church one day. We'll print off all the bulletins, and we'll stuff each envelope with a couple of palms. So all the families will have palms on Palm Sunday. So that's one idea that we had, and I think we'll bring together. And for Holy Week, we're gonna bring it together. What is going on over there? So Eric Mays is a member. He's a neighbor, and he was just yelling over the fence. So if you heard Eric, that was that. Drive-by palms. Yeah, that's a good thought. The only thing with drive-by palms, or anything, if you've been hearing other churches do like drive-by communion or drive-by blessings, to me that's still encouraging people to leave their homes, and so we just want to keep everybody in their places as much as possible. That's kind of my policy. That's my thought on it. Is we want people to stay home as much as possible. So the USPS is a safe way to deliver. Jennifer and I will wear, vinyl gloves as we pack the envelopes. We'll be sure to use sanitary methods of packaging that. All right, so we got some other no questions. Oh yeah, glad you could join. Awesome. Well, you guys, enjoy your dinners. Have a good time as families, or if you're by yourself this evening, know that God is not far away, that we're not far away as a community, that we're always here for you. And I think we'll do this next time. So spread the word to families, to the newspapers, that we're going to be having a fireside chat next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, same kind of format. I'm going to try to figure out how to get the Ethernet cable out over to our fire pit. The goal was to, as you can see, this is kind of my sad attempt at having a bonfire, but next week it'll be a little bit more, robust. We'll actually have a fire. But be sure to tune in to Holden Evening Prayer in just a few minutes, which is will be uploaded to YouTube if it hasn't been already. And tune into that, sing along. The bulletin will be attached to that. And yes, thank you, David. Yeah, actually, these candles are bonfire scent. It's not a bonfire I've ever smelled before. It kind of tastes like, I have not tasted these candles. They smell kind of like lavender, maybe. But at any rate, tune in next Wednesday for the fireside chat at 6, Holden Evening Prayer at 7. And it's just been a joy to be with you all tonight. And we'll be, we'll be in touch again soon. We'll be seeing you very soon. So, all right. Cheers, everybody. Have a good night. And we will be with you again soon. Cheers. All right. We're going to end the live stream now. Have a good night, everybody.